Hey folks, hope you are doing well. In this video, let's talk about India's budget for the upcoming financial year 2026. On Feb 1st, India's finance minister will reveal the budget. So by the time this video comes out, the budget might have already been announced. Here we are going to comment on some key items that might be included in the new budget. Budget simply means a government's plan on how much they plan to spend and where during the upcoming financial year. Government also tries to estimate how much income they might get in the form of income taxes and other sources. That then informs markets how much the government plans to borrow to make up the difference between higher spending and lower revenue. First, the spending on food, fertilizer, and cooking gas subsidies will go up by 8% in the new budget. It will reach 4.1 trillion rupees. 1 trillion is 1 lakh crore. So the subsidy bill is expected to cross 4 trillion rupees or $47 billion. In the current financial year, that is in the last budget, subsidy bill accounted for roughly 8% of the country's total spending, and in the new budget, the same ratio might hold. Second, India's capital expenditure push or capex push may continue. Specifically, Indian Railways might see a higher allocation to their capex. For context, during the ongoing financial year, India planned to spend 11.1 trillion rupees on capex that included spending on highways, airports, ports, railways, etc. Of this 11.1 trillion rupees, Indian Railways was allocated around 2.6 trillion rupees. Of that, Railways has already spent 1.9 trillion rupees with 2 more months still left before the current financial year comes to an end. So, Indian Railways may see their capex allocation go up in the new budget. Third, India has seen good progress in local electronics manufacturing in the form of smartphone or mobile assembly by global majors such as Apple and Samsung. But electronic components manufacturing still remains a weakness. So, the budget may include a new scheme to stimulate electronic components manufacturing in the country. Outlay could be somewhere around 25,000 crore rupees. The reason behind this scheme is the fact that in 2023, demand for electronic components in India was $45.5 billion. But more importantly, most of these components were imported from China and Hong Kong. This demand for components is expected to rise to almost $250 billion by 2030. If India does not set up an ecosystem to manufacture components locally, it will lose a lot of foreign exchange by then, like the country does when we import crude oil. And finally, possible cuts in the income taxes. If you look at the interim budget for the ongoing financial year, gross tax revenue of 38.3 trillion rupees was expected, almost 30% of which comes from income taxes on individuals. So if the government cuts taxes on individuals, it will take a big hit in its tax revenue. Having said that, of the 11.5 trillion rupees of individual income taxes, bulk of it comes from individuals who make 1 crore rupees per year or more. So what the government can do is cut taxes on people who make an annual salary of anywhere between 3 lakh rupees to 15 lakh rupees. That achieves twin objective of putting more money in the hands of the middle class, yet minimizing the damage to the government's exchequer. But whether these tax cuts will come or not remains to be seen, and even if they do, they will come in the new tax regime from 2020. Other than that, as far as expenses are concerned, we may see the same pattern continue as was the case with the previous budget, where capital expenditure and related expenses made up most of the country's total spending, followed by interest expense on government debt, and third highest expense, expenditure to keep the government running. These three major expenses take up most of the available resources, which leaves very little to spend on social welfare. Then we saw in the beginning 4.1 trillion rupees spent on subsidy bill take away even more of the available resource pool. Not a lot left to spend on education, healthcare, research and development, defense, etc. We need to find a way either to reduce interest expense on the government debt or bring in more taxes, or maybe those two are related. If more people start paying their fair share of taxes, maybe the government need to borrow less, which might reduce interest expense. But we'll see if any of the four items we discussed make it to the new budget. I hope you found this analysis interesting. I'll speak with you again next week. Until then, take care.